Yes, we need. All right, let's do some practice on the substituted hydrocarbons, and then we'll do some more notes. And then on Monday next week, we'll do some more practice on the substituted hydrocarbons, and I will give you some to do for do on your own for a grade. Or something like that. Maybe I'll change it slightly. Maybe on Monday, we'll give you some that you do ahead of me and then double check to see how you did. And then maybe on Tuesday, we'll give you some to do on your own for a grade. All right, so again, circle, state, and name. Circle what's different. Circle what's different. State what's different from the regular carbon and hydrogen, that is, and then name the compound. So first one, these aren't numbered, but starting upper left, like, we normally do in European languages. And we have, that's not carbon or the regular carbon and hydrogen, and that's not the regular carbon and hydrogen. So that's the first thing. Second thing, state. So we've got double bonded O and an N. So double bonded O and an end and an end. Try that again. Double bonded O and an end makes this, sorry, the text beeps distracted me. Makes this an amide. Huh, must be a friend of mine. All right, second one. What's not regular carbon and hydrogen? The screeny face. And so state what's different. We've got a double bonded O, and where is it? It's not on the end, not end. So a double bonded O, not on the end. The ends would be this carbon or this carbon. Maybe I don't want to do that because I said to circle what's different, and that's not different. So let me do that a little differently. Oops, didn't mean to get rid of that C. That carbon and that carbon would be ends. So O not on the end would be aldehyde. Moving along, and again, if you have questions, you know where the raise your hand button is. So here's what's not the regular carbon and hydrogen. So that is a O between two C's. Yes, Sid.
I think the one we just did might have been a ketone because it was not on an end carbon, right? The double bond oxygen.
Yep. Not on end is ketone. That is correct. And I was thinking ketone. I don't know why I said aldehyde. Um, the third one. So we've got this O between two C's. And we could just call that, we could write O between two C's, or if we write it like that, I'm good with that. Nothing else. So just an O between two C's would make this ether. Moving on to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there a hand up?
Yeah, I was just a little bit confused on how you know what to call them. Like, I know that there's like a little like key that you made, but I wasn't sure if that was how or if it's like actually in the notes.
Well, it is actually in the notes. It's this list right here. So, nope, that's not what I want. Ether is oxygen between two carbons, and right there you see the dash O dash, the bolded part. And like on the previous one, the ketone went too far, like usual. The ketone was in double bonded oxygen, not on the N carbon, which it's right there. So that list is what we're using here from the notes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. What I want a pen. All right, so the next one. First, what's not C or H? This right here, the OH. So what's different? State it, OH. Not sure why I'm missing those pieces right there. And there's nothing else, no double bonded O or anything. So just OH would make that an alcohol. Questions? Okay, moving to the next one. What's not the regular CNH? It's that N right there. So that's circle. Number 2, state, an N only, and an N only would make this an amine. Now, the next one, be careful. We've got an N right there and an OH. We've got two things that are not the regular C and H. So we've got an N and we've got an OH. And here's the key, different C's. So this is actually two answers. The N, only an N in this location here. How will I do this? Nope. So the N is on, there's the N and the carbons it's attached to. There's nothing else right there. So that makes this an amine, and here's the C. How will I do this? There's the C and the OH that it's attached to, and it's completely different. So that makes this an amine for the part that's circled or highlighted in yellow, and an alcohol for the part that's highlighted in blue. So this one is actually two things. And as I said yesterday, multiple substitutions is very common in the more complicated of these, like in biochemistry and advanced organic chemistry. All right, the next one, just a double bonded O, so circle. Secondly, state, that is a double bonded O only, nothing else. And it's on, I guess I wasn't ready. It's only, and it's on the end. So only a double bonded O on an N carbon. This is the N carbon, and that's the N carbon. Would make this, and here we go with the aldehyde. No questions? The next one we'll circle. Here's something that's not the regular CNH. There's something that's not the regular CNH. They're on the same carbon. I mean, one of the carbons is the same. They have a carbon in common. So circle, state, we have O between two C's and double bonded O with a carbon in common, C in common, or one of them is the same, in other words. So that makes this an ether, no ester. Okay, our last one. What's not the regular CNH? We have an OH here, and look, OH and HO is the same thing, just spun around backwards. If I could lift this whole thing off the chart and flip it around and slap it back down, it would say OH instead of HO. Same thing, just looking at it from the back. And a double bonded O. So there we have circled what's different. State it. We've got an OH and double bonded O on the same carbon. So that makes this a carboxylic acid. All right, any last minute questions before we go on to the next? Back to the notes. Any questions before we go back to the notes? Okay, when we do this on Monday, as I said, you will write down what you think it is. You'll do it like this. And then I'll come along and do it, and you can double check, make sure you did it right, and fix it if you didn't. And you turn that in, All you have to do is be here and pay attention to get 100 on it on Monday. 100%, it won't be 100 points. All right. Back to the substituted hydrocarbons. No, that's what we just did. Back to the notes. Back to the carbohydrates. You don't have to make the change, but you will notice perhaps that I changed this a little bit from the way it was printed out for you. Changed it to be kind of like I said yesterday. Maybe that helps you, maybe it doesn't. You don't have to change it. You can leave it the way it was. So, as I pointed out yesterday, the monosaccharides are the single sugars, and they're called simple sugars. And the disaccharides are the double sugars because they are two rings hooked together. I drew you some pictures yesterday. I didn't save them with the notes. You will remember that a monosaccharide, just a minute, here we go again. You will remember that a monosaccharide, what in the world? What? Can you see these things jumping in, lines jumping in and out? Or is it just me? Maybe I'm going crazier. So a monosaccharide was one of these generic rings, and that is super oversimplified. And a disaccharide is two of those single rings put together. And that's why it's called a disaccharide, because it has two sugars that make it up. Now, I told you yesterday that a couple of examples of monosaccharides are fructose, which is fruit sugar, and glucose. Just on the side, I think it's hilarious. When I was in college, sucrose, table sugar, was evil. And so, to some people. And so the people who thought it was evil would go down to their natural food store and buy fructose. Now, you can still, I think, as far as I know, buy fructose. And it's sweet. It kind of looks like crystally sugar. It tastes kind of like sucrose, but not exactly the same. But it's made by fruit, not, the evil sugar cane or the evil sugar beet. And so people would go down and they'd buy their white crystallized fructose, and that would be the quote unquote natural sugar that people used instead of table sugar, sucrose. Then along came high fructose corn syrup. And now fructose is considered evil. So, and I'm sure that there's probably some nuance in there, like, well, high fructose corn syrup is evil, but maybe sucrose in an apple is good. Well, sucrose in it, not sucrose, fructose in an apple is good. And listen, sugar, is sugar evil? No, but Americans eat way too much of it. It's not evil in and of itself. It's not no sugar. None of the sugars we're talking about anyway are bad in and of themselves. The problem is that we eat huge quantities of them. And I'll tell you why we eat huge quantities of them. It's not because Coke or McDonald's or somebody is trying to make us addicted. It's because humans have a natural tendency to like sweet. That is, well, let's go back and think a little bit. Imagine humanity 1,000 years ago. So, or maybe 2,000 years ago or 4,000 years ago. So somewhere we believe in the past, humans got to North America from Asia over a land bridge between what is now Alaska and what is now Russia. We believe, and there's some evidence for this, that somewhere in the past there was not water separating Asia and or Russia and Alaska, and we believe that some group of Asians walked from Russia across the land bridge to Alaska, and then they kept as time went on and they had families and multiplied and the population grew, they radiated throughout North America and into South America. And that's where the group that we colloquially, that's a hard word to say, call Indians came from. So imagine this. We have these Asians coming across the land bridge, and they're radiating from Alaska down into what is now Canada, and then into what is United States and Mexico and South America. And as they go, they're coming across new kinds of plants and animals that no one in the world has ever had at that point ever seen before. And they have to decide what's good to eat and what's not good to eat. Well, basically, there are two main energy sources in the diet. Those two main energy sources are carbohydrates, including sugars, and fats. And so we have a built-in tendency to like things that are sweet and things that are fat. Now, I'm not talking about pure fat, maybe, but we like fatty foods. We just kind of like sugary foods and fatty foods. In my opinion, that's part of God's design so that as like these people radiated out into new areas, they would naturally eat the things that gave them energy. The problem is, in the last, I don't know, 100 years, give or take, we have learned how to extract sugar and get pure sugar and put huge amounts of sugar in our diet. It's not the sugar that's bad for us, it's the huge amounts that we eat. So fructose and glucose. Fructose, I told you, was fruit sugar. It is good for you as long as you don't eat too much. Glucose is blood sugar because it's naturally found in the blood. It is good for you as long as you don't eat too much. I'm not talking about blood, I'm talking about glucose. And you can go down to the store and buy glucose. You can go to the pharmacy and buy glucose because people with low blood sugar, if their blood sugar crashes too fast, too much, they can become unconscious. And so people with low blood sugar have these, they'll frequently carry like glucose tablets in their purse or pocket or whatever, so that if they feel their blood pressure starting to, blood sugar starting to drop, they can eat a glucose pill and get their blood sugar back up. So disaccharides then are two sugars. These sugars are monosaccharides. Hooked together. Some examples are, and you've heard of sucrose. Maybe you haven't heard the word sucrose, but sucrose is table sugar. Unless you get some other sugar, you are getting sucrose. Unless you specifically go out of the way to get some other sugar, you are getting sucrose. It is found in sugar cane and sugar beets. Michigan raises a lot of sugar beets up around the Saginaw Bay area. And it's fine for you in low quantities, but we eat tons of it. Lactose, you've heard of lactose because of lactose intolerance. Lactose is milk sugar. It is the naturally occurring sugar in milk. All mammals. Lactose is found in milk. Now, they do have at the store lactose-free milk. That milk came out of the cow with lactose in it, but they have removed the lactose so that lactose intolerant people can drink it. By the way, never mind. Well, I'll say it. By the way, on the side, there are more people who are who think they're lactose intolerant that aren't than people who actually are lactose intolerant. But if you don't want to drink milk, that's fine. Although it is got a lot of good stuff in it. Okay, maltose is grain sugar. It is the naturally occurring sugar in grain. That's why, like, and I'm not encouraging this, but that's why beer and so on is called malt liquor sometimes, because it's made from grain. Malted milk balls have maltose in. Malted milk. Now, malted milk is not necessarily the thing as a modern milkshake, but it was at least what milkshakes used to be like in the early days. But they used a grain in them, and that's where the sweetness came from. Let's see, I needed to tell you something here. Oh, you say, well, I don't think milk is sweet. I don't think grains are sweet. Well, they're not super sweet, but they do have these sugars in. And I will tell you that almost every day for several years, I've had oatmeal with just oatmeal and milk, no added sugar. And I try to avoid excess sugar, and I can taste the sweetness in my oatmeal. It's not strong, but I can sense it because I haven't been so overpowered with candy bars and pop and so on that I'm kind of like immune to sugar, to sweetness. I have to have a huge amount. I told you the other day that I have this big box of peanuts I snack on. I can tell the difference in sweetness between peanuts and peanut butter. Because if you look at most peanut butters, it has a lot of added sugar. All right, the other thing I need to point out right here is some of you who may be a little bit paying attention to things may have noticed that there is a commonality between these words we've been looking at. You may have noticed that it's fructose, OSE, glucose, OSE, sucrose, OSE, lactose, OSE, maltose, OSE. That is because there are some naming conventions in biochemistry and organic chemistry, and any name that ends with OSE, the OSE means sugar. So let's see. No, we haven't got there for chemistry. You may, yeah, I'm dreaming. Remember from 10th grade that DNA and RNA are made out of a phosphate, a nitrogenous base, and a pentose, OSE, sugar. So this OSE ending means sugar whenever you see it. There's some other endings that we'll come across that always mean something too. So that's where we'll stop today. We'll finish up on sugars after we do some more practice with the substituted hydrocarbons on next Monday, this coming Monday. And other than that, if you have any questions, now's a good time to ask. Or you can have a good day and a good weekend.